All right. People are still trickling in, but I'm going to get us started. I apologize in advance for my voice. I'm currently battling a cold, but bear with me. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the American Made Challenges CDR Purchase Pilot Prize Kickoff webinar. As you know, the CDR Purchase Pilot Prize is the first time ever that the U.S. federal government will purchase CDR credit directly from the private sector, and these are your instructions on how to access those funds. My name is Eli Kane. I'm a program manager at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. I'm responsible for running the suite of DAC prizes, including this prize. I'm also joined by Tony Farrick and Rory Jacobson. Tony and Rory, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, I'm happy to go first, Eli. Thank you. And I really support our entire suite of carbon management work.
Rory, you started cutting off right as you started talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Terrible timing.
Sorry, I'll just leave it at CDR and pass to Tony.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tony Farrick. My background's in chemical engineering, and currently I'm an ORISE Science, Technology, and Policy postdoctoral fellow working at FECM, specifically on the carbon dioxide removal team.
Amazing. And you'll hear more from them in just a second. But let me walk you quickly through the agenda for today. We're going to give you an overview on the American Made program here at NREL, an overview of FECM, discuss the CDR Purchase Pilot Prize, talk about the submission elements, the HeroX platform, which is what you'll use to actually submit your phase 1 application, and then discuss how you will actually apply for phase 1. Before I begin, just a few housekeeping issues. As you can see, this webinar is being recorded. We will post a link to the recording on HeroX in the coming days. If you have questions, please submit them in the Q&A box. We'll post answers to the HeroX forum as soon as possible. We've already received numerous questions and posted many answers to HeroX, so please take the time to go back and review that Q&A. If you have any technical issues, send us a message and our host can help resolve those for you. But now I'm going to give you a little bit of background about what my program does. The American Made program is run out of the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. We work with the Department of Energy to run over 55 different clean tech prize competitions, connecting domestic entrepreneurs with over $200 million in cash prizes and technology support. In collaboration with over 22 different offices within the DOE, we've awarded prizes to over 300 teams in the United States. Put simply, the American Made Challenges program is one of the fastest, easiest, and most equitable ways to access DOE funding. We often get the question, how is the prize program different than the federal grant process? And the biggest difference is that prize money is no strings attached. Once you win an award, that cash prize is yours to spend as you wish. It is to your advantage to use that money to continue your program's work, but it is entirely up to you how you spend that money. The CDR Purchase Pilot Prize is also the first time ever that cash prizes will be awarded for the procurement of a good or service. So really kind of a groundbreaking program on many different fronts. I'm now going to pass it over to Tony and Rory to talk a little bit about FECM and the CDR Procurement Prize before I jump back in with some technical details. Okay, Rory, I'll pass it to you.
Okay, please let me know if the audio goes out again. I'm going to pause video for the moment, but I sort of wanted to situate the commercial CDR Purchase Pilot Prize within the broader suite of prizes that we're running, particularly across direct air capture and across CDR more broadly. We've already announced a pre-commercial EPIC prize to support incubators, accelerators, commercialization programs that are supporting entrepreneurs that are building curriculum and facilities for folks that are developing innovative DAC technologies. That first round has since closed. We've announced our semifinalists. Our pre-commercial tech prize, we've also recently closed. That's actually directly supporting the innovators and entrepreneurs that are building these technologies. We'll announce semifinalists, I think, in the coming months. But the one that we're talking about today that I am so excited about is the CDR Purchase Pilot Prize. And I think to Eli's point earlier, this is a really exciting moment where this is sort of the first effort of a national government attempting to purchase high quality, durable carbon dioxide removal credits at scale. and it is open now, and applications are due on November 30th. And I'll get into how folks that are not just applicants can also engage in this prize, but maybe we can move to the next slide.
Okay, so here we wanted to provide a high-level overview of how the prize is structured. So in the first phase, which is currently open, the competitors will submit a brief description of their proposed CDR technology and plant to comply with the requirements outlined in the prize rules. Next, the winners of that prize will be eligible to submit and enter into phase 2, where we're asking for a lot more in-depth and detailed information regarding their technology as well as their plant design. The down-selected winners here will be eligible for the cash prize listed in the phase 2 bucket, and they will also be able to enter into negotiation contracts with the DOE for their expected CDR deliveries. And then in phase 3, the teams that successfully won phase 2 and entered into the negotiation contracts with the Department of Energy, they'll be awarded cash prizes up to $3 million per winner for successfully delivering their CDR. And then I just wanted to highlight that for the first phase, which is open now, the winners will receive $50,000 for advancing their specific CDR technology. Next slide.
Great. Thank you so much, Tony. And before we dive into the details of this specific prize, I also wanted to talk sort of at a high level about how our specific office, Fossil Energy and Carbon Management, has sort of pivoted our direction and built out our strategic vision over this administration. In 2021, our office actually changed their name from just Fossil Energy to Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. And I think adding that carbon management piece is a tremendously important piece of the puzzle, as you can see here. It fits into our strategic vision in a number of different ways. It helps to achieve President Biden's climate goals of reducing emissions by 50% by 2030, a CO2-free power sector by 2035, and then a net zero economy by no later than 2050. And through all of these efforts, we're really advancing justice, labor, and engagement. If you've looked at the prize rules, community benefits plans are a big, major aspect of the prize process for this specific one. And then, of course, we're also advancing priorities across technologies for deep decarbonization across industry, the power sector. We're advancing our point source capture technologies, but also acknowledging that there is legacy carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and in our upper hydrosphere that needs to be removed, which is a key driver for this particular prize. And then, of course, reliable transport and storage. And then in addition to that, we're also advancing our R&D investments across technologies that could yield sustainable energy resources, including hydrogen with carbon management, critical minerals, and then, of course, methane mitigation across the supply chain.
So as Rory highlighted on the last slide, we have quite a different number of technologies we're exploring in the Carbon Management Office. Here, I'm highlighting the research interests for the carbon dioxide removal program in particular. So here we're looking at natural as well as engineered approaches to capture CO2 directly from the atmosphere or oceans, coupled with secure storage. And some of the pathways that we're particularly interested in at the moment and historically include direct air capture, accelerated weathering and mineralization technologies, biomass with carbon removal and storage, and recently ocean-based CDR has become top of the radar for our program. And when we're making funding opportunities, some of the key evaluation criteria are listed on the slide, which include the cost of the technology and its relationship and potential to get to that $100 per ton metric outlined by the carbon negative shot, its additionality, its permanence, its net negativity, the rigorous carbon accounting presented through life cycle analysis, any societal considerations and impacts, and then monitoring, reporting, and verification for the CDR technology as well.
Great, thank you, Tony. And so I wanted to sort of flag our carbon negative shot, which is a key performance aspect of how DOE is advancing carbon removal technologies across not just fossil energy and carbon management, but all of Department of Energy. We have decided on a target of $100 per net metric ton carbon dioxide equivalent, so including all greenhouse gases, by 2032. So this is including our entire suite or portfolio of carbon dioxide removal technologies that DOE works on. We want robust life cycle accounting across the entire supply chain. So not just thinking about what we're pulling out of the atmosphere, but also thinking about the embodied emissions within facilities, the emissions that are produced as a result of energy to operate them, all of the things that actually going in or that go into producing a ton that is removed from the atmosphere. And then, of course, as Tony highlighted, we want high quality, durable storage with at least capacity to demonstrate permanent isolation from the atmosphere for 100 years or more, ideally. And then also, of course, scalability. These solutions don't have impact in meaningfully mitigating climate change without getting to gigaton scale. And so we really want to also see potential for them to get to gigaton level and demonstrate feasibility to meaningfully curb the climate crisis. And I think that, the diagram to the right sort of highlights that solutions have costs that are sort of differently distributed across managing long-term storage versus the actual capture itself. So DAC is a technology that's incredibly costly to operate, at least with respect to removal from the atmosphere, but the storage is relatively cheap as a fraction, versus soil carbon sequestration is relatively cost effective with respect to removal, but actually requires a greater distribution of funds to actually continue that storage for a meaningful level of time.
So now moving back towards the motivation and the intended outcomes for the CDR per chip pilot prize. As we know from multiple high impact reports, CDR is needed at the gigaton scale by mid-century. However, if we're looking at today's current CDR markets, they're limited by uncertainty in the demand side, as well as a relatively limited supply. When we talk about that gigaton scale, we're nowhere near that at this point. So that's where this prize comes in. Here to advance and accelerate the domestic commercial deployment of CDR, DOE is putting forth this competitive purchasing program, which is one of the first of its kind. And so the competitors will have the ability to develop purchasing contracts with the DOE, and then finally they'll be awarded based on successfully delivering CDR. And so the intended outcomes can be categorized into three main categories. So one is to increase the supply of credible CDR in the marketplace while emphasizing a diverse portfolio of CDR options. Next, we want to develop standards for technology evaluation, community benefits plans development, as well as contracting and negotiating terms when making CDR contracts. And then lastly, we want to encourage and incentivize additional demand for CDR purchasing from the private sector while establishing and delineating the boundaries of the government as well as the private sector in scaling and shaping the future of the CDR market.
Great. Thank you so much, Tony. And so I sort of wanted to highlight our 4 key areas of interest, which are the different verticals within which competitors can identify and provide a rationale for within which their technology fits. The first of which is direct air capture technologies. Second, enhanced mineralization, ex situ or surficial. Area of interest 3 is biomass carbon removal with sequestration. And then area of interest 4 is other planned and managed sinks and terrestrial ecosystems in the upper hydrosphere. There are a suite of other requirements associated with these different areas of interest within the prize rules, which I would encourage you all to look into. I am seeing a lot of questions in the chat related to eligibility, and I hope that there's guidance within the prize rules document. If not, please do engage to the HeroX platform. Tony briefly walked you through sort of the structure of the prizes at a high level, but for phase 1, we're really just looking for a CDR credit concept proposal. This is at the highest level. Your overview of your technology, the CDR credit that you would provide to DOE if selected to compete in phases 2 and 3, an overview of how you would develop a community benefits plan, and then all of the aspects that Tony will talk about on the next slide. And for the selections that we make within this first phase to compete as semifinalists, we will provide $50,000 awards for this initial, or up to $50,000 awards in this initial section for a total of $1.25 million. In phase 2, this is really where you're doing detailed contract design, which again is outlined more specifically in the prize rules, for a maximum award of $375,000, totaling up to $3,750,000. This is really where you're getting into the details of developing your CDR credit contract, right? This is all the specificities with the timeline that you'll deliver your credits on, the independent measurement, reporting, and verification that will be associated with your solution. And then also, of course, developing and implementing that community benefits plan. Finally, in phase 3, this is where you actually implement your community benefits plan. You're delivering your carbon dioxide removal credits to DOE. If selected to compete within that phase on agreed upon contract terms for an award up to $3 million. And those awards are based on the total amount or total volume of carbon dioxide removal credits which you can provide to DOE, which are, again, defined in the prize rules.
So here we'll be going through the main evaluation criteria that competitors will be assessed on as they're presenting their CDR technologies and CDR plant design. So one is obviously the cost of the technology, including both CapEx and OpEx. And here it's important to note that we'll be evaluating the current cost as well as the potential for that cost to come down and be in compliance with that carbon negative shock goal of $100 per net metric ton removed. Next, we'll be assessing the permanence of the CO2 removal pathway, which should be compliant with the regulations outlined by the Class 6 well permitting requirements, although compelling justifications for equivalent mechanisms of CO2 storage will be considered as well. Next, we'll be assessing the ability of the technology providers to measure both the CO2 drawdown associated with their technology, as well as the uncertainties associated with those measurements, their ability to transparently communicate and report those results, as well as their ability to obtain a third party and independent verification of their CDR process as a whole. Next, we'll be assessing the level of additionality of the technology. So here it's crucial for competitors to demonstrate that carbon dioxide removal would not, these credits generated from the carbon dioxide removal would not be generated without DOE's involvement through the form of this purchasing prize. Next, we're strongly considering the life cycle accounting, which should demonstrate net negativity of the process. And this needs to be performed on a cradle to grave basis with consideration of all upstream, downstream, as well as process emissions associated with the CDR mitigation activity. Next, we'll seek clarification on the energy source as well as the total energy requirements of the CDR process. And this should include the split between thermal and electrical energy requirements as well. Next, please. So we'll also be assessing the consideration for societal considerations and impacts by the team. And this should include all activities related to community engagement, as well as the development of community benefits plans. And lastly, we'll be assessing the total plant capacity, as well as the ability for the technology to scale in the future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Tony. And I also just want to say thank you to our colleagues at the National Renewable Energy Lab who have facilitated and curated so much of this prize. Very grateful for all of their hard work. And particularly, I think, socialization of this prize. We've gotten really unprecedented levels of engagement. But how can we engage with you all? There are a couple of different ways. So first of all, if you're a potential competitor or a CDR credit supplier, I would strongly encourage you to rigorously review the rules. Look at all of the aspects of eligibility and the technology verticals that we've drawn out. And I hope relatively clearly defined. If you have questions, of course, please engage through the HeroX platform. We are also seeking comment on our draft rules for phases 2 and 3 at the email that is listed there by Halloween, which is spooky. And you can see Appendix 12 for greater details on what that should look like. And then, of course, we would strongly encourage you to consider submitting a CDR credit concept proposal for phase 1, which is functionally your submission package by the end of November, which is listed there. For non-DOE stakeholders, more broadly, we would really encourage feedback on our rules, especially for those folks that have experience buying high quality CDR credits. We would love feedback on how we've structured the prize, and especially some of the criteria that we've developed for phases 2 and 3 that are still draft rules that we can amend as appropriate. And I think sort of the same feedback for CDR credit buyers, where there are places where we can improve our approach to being an off-taker for high quality CDR credits, particularly the engineered high quality durable credits that we're looking for. We would love to see your feedback, I think, especially with respect to phases 2 and 3. So I'll pass it off to Eli, but again, thank you to our colleagues at NREL for all of their support throughout this prize. It's sincerely appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tony and Rory. I'm going to walk through some of the details, kind of the programmatic details on the CDR purchase prize. I'm going to start off by saying I am thrilled to see, I think I saw 175 participants on today's webinar. I'm thrilled about that engagement. But the single most valuable resource you have about this prize is the official rules document, which is on HeroX. That document lives under the resources tab. Please read it cover to cover. It governs the entirety of this prize, from the program overview to who is eligible, what to submit for phase one, almost anything else you need to know. That document is your best friend. Please read it. One of the things it includes is the program requirements. And the specific submission requirements will vary phase by phase, but it's important that each submission incorporates these 6 attributes. And you'll notice they align very closely with the evaluation criteria that Tony outlined earlier. So what your CDR offering is and how much you'll deliver, that you have independently verified removal, that you incorporate societal considerations and impacts, that you factor in additionality, that you have secure geological storage or the equivalent of that, and that your technology is scalable. I will also say that when discussing your CDR technology, it is your prerogative to provide a rationale for why that technology should be included within any of the 4 technology areas of interest. As Rory alluded to, we've already received and we continue to receive a lot of questions that boil down to, is my technology eligible for this prize? And those are great questions to ask, but in general, our response will be, it is your prerogative to tell us why your technology fits within one of those 4 areas of interest. Feel free to keep asking us the questions, that's why we're here, but know that we want to put the onus on you to tell us why your technology fits or does not fit within those areas. I will also say, as always, the official rules document has the detailed outline for who is eligible to compete in this prize, including a full list of who is ineligible to compete. In general, the prize is open to private entities, both for-profit and nonprofit, as well as academic institutions, as long as they're based in the United States, and your CDR is removed and sequestered within the United States or associated waters. Lastly, and this point is very, very important, only phase 1 winners are eligible to compete in phase 2. Thus, if your organization intends to compete in this prize, you must submit your phase 1 submission by November 30th. That is your only chance to enter the door for this prize. That is a hard deadline. Please do not miss it. Which is why I have an entire slide dedicated to one date, November 30th, 5 p.m. Eastern. That is the date I want you to write in your calendar, circle it, mark it in red, do whatever you need to. Do not miss this date because it is truly your only chance to get in the door for this prize. So let's talk about what phase 1 requirements are. What do you need to do by November 30th? You really only need to do 2 things by November 30th. Write a cover page, which is just a very quick outline and overview of what you're submitting, and then write your CDR credit concept proposal. The credit concept proposal can only be 12 pages with 3 supporting images, graphics, tables, or figures. Again, the purpose of this prize and the intent behind it is to make it as easy and accessible as possible. So we're limiting submissions to 12 pages for phase 1. You can also enter in letters of commitment or support if you think they are material and impact your submission, but this is optional. So here's the scoring breakdown for phase 1. You can see that 70% is dedicated to your project overview and other key program requirements, with the remaining split between technology development and your team and organization. The cover page is not scored, but it is required for your submission to be eligible. So please submit both. Lastly, how to apply. It's very easy by design to apply for this. Go to the HeroX page, click solve this challenge and follow the instructions. The HeroX page, if it's not bookmarked already, it should be, because it has the forum where you're going to answer your questions. It has the resources tab where the official rules document lives, and it is where you will actually submit your phase 1 submission. So if I could tell you to do one thing, it would be to follow the HeroX page, because that's where you'll get all the updates and notifications about the prize. Read the rules, because they contain all the information you need to know about the prize. And then, as Rory mentioned, we need your feedback on the draft rules for phases 2 and 3. We'll incorporate that feedback and publish the official rules for phase 2 in the coming months. and your feedback is due in almost exactly 1 week. You can find more information about how to do that in Appendix 12 in the official rules document. Most importantly, November 30th is the deadline. Do not miss it. And we cannot wait to read their submissions, and we could not be more excited about this prize. I'm going to wrap up there, but we're going to leave this line open for about 5 more minutes. So if you have any questions that you think of, please put them in the Q&A box. We will take them back, we'll evaluate them, and then we'll publish our answers as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for attending. We could not be more excited about this, what it means for the CDR industry, and we cannot wait to review your submissions. Thank you so much.